Good evening and welcome. Starting with the top story that we are tracking for you. India is seeking assistance from the US Justice Department to probe Sikhs for Justice, a US-based Khalistani successionist group. Sikhs for Justice wants the Indian state of Punjab to separate from the Union, and it has been calling for a referendum to carve out a separate Khalistani state. In 2019, the Indian government banned the organisation after consulting with senior Sikh leaders. The Punjab government had backed the central government's ban. In December of last year, the National Investigation Agency lodged an FIR against Sikhs for Justice. The group was accused of creating an atmosphere of fear and inciting rebellion. The NIA has issued summons to 40 people linked to Sikhs for Justice. Delhi police also registered a case against the group for floating the idea of a referendum in 2020. As is procedure, the Indian government has sent a request of mutual legal assistance to the United States. The request has been conveyed directly to the US Justice Department. For more on this, we're being joined by our principal diplomatic correspondent, Sidan Sybil. Good evening to you, Sidan. Now, India is seeking assistance from the US Justice Department for the investigation for Sikhs for Justice. How do you see this development?
Well, Alison, this is a significant development. It shows that India is taking a strong action when it comes to Khalistanis abroad, and this is a cause of worry also. In recent days, we have seen how the farmers protest here in India, especially when it comes to border areas of Delhi, where we have seen these protests being used as propaganda by these Khalistanis globally, and that is why India is concerned about it. We know that the outlawed group Sikh for Justice has been a kind of nuisance for New Delhi. In fact, we know that in the month of January, when it comes to the Indian mission in Italy, some of the members of this group had vandalized the Indian mission there, had put some graffiti in front of the Indian mission, and India had taken the issue strongly with the Italian mission, and India of course had alerted the various missions that ahead of India's Republic Day there might be some instances as well, but by and large a strong reaction by India, and now India clearly in touch with the US government. We do expect that this process can in fact take a long time, given the fact that the new administration has just been sworn in, and of course there are number of vacancies as well which needs to be fulfilled, but it is a process which New Delhi of course is eager on.
Right, Siddhant, you have touched on it. I just want to unpack it a little bit more. How do you see the farmers' issues being used for propaganda in this way?
Well, if you look at the global situation right now, we have seen how the entire issue here in India has been used for propaganda, for their own propaganda by various groups, by various separatist organizations, and of course it is being fueled by elements of course who are not of course very pro-India. But largely if we look at the situation as of now, India of course is acting strongly against the propaganda, especially when it comes to social media as well. We know Seek for Justice is very popular in terms of using these social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, and in fact ahead of the Republic Day parade we saw the Seek for Justice publicly saying that anybody who can hoist a flag at India's national monuments will be given awards. So this was something that India had taken note of, and of course this was something that India both on social media platforms and with the foreign governments has raised the matter. But by and large it is given that whatever happens here in India is used as propaganda, whether it is the current ongoing protest, whether it is the CA protest which we saw in 2019, or in the aftermath of India removing the special status for the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir as well. We saw a lot of propaganda over the entire issue, but by and large we know that the Indian government has made sure that whenever this kind of development happens, a propaganda being put up, India is forthright in giving information, in telling the world that this is not what is happening on the ground and why these developments are happening. In fact, recently we know the tweets being made by celebrities, the Western celebrities, and the MEA coming with a reaction. This was a pretty long reaction by the MEA, but significantly the entire reaction talked about what is exactly happening, the government version, how the conversations are happening, and also highlighting what happened on 26th of January, that is Republic Day, and of course the vandalization of Mahatma Gandhi statues globally.
Siddhant, thank you very much for bringing us all the details in that report there. Moving on, the Proud Boys, the group that Donald Trump told to stand back and stand by, the far-right, male-only group that was a major part in the insurrection at the deadly U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. last month, has been designated as a banned terrorist organization by Canada. Our next report tells you more.
With Canada designating the Proud Boys as a terrorist entity, the group could now see its accounts frozen, assets seized, and expanded police investigative powers across the country. Members of the Proud Boys could also be arrested upon trying to enter Canadian borders. Canadian officials say that while information obtained following the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. was, quote, a contributing factor, it certainly wasn't the driving force, and that they had been looking at the group's activity for a while. The Proud Boys was among 13 groups added to the government's terrorism list, including 3 other far-right or neo-Nazi organizations. The other groups added to the list are affiliated with the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda.
These groups are, unfortunately, active in Canada and around the world. Their violent actions and rhetoric are fueled by white supremacy, anti-Semitism, racism, homophobia, Islamophobia, and misogyny, and unfortunately, often in combination of all of the above.
We the people cannot accept communism in this great country.
The decision follows a warning last week by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security about the heightened threat of ideologically motivated violent extremists. However, while there are already laws in place dealing with terrorism at home, there is no U.S. law to designate a wholly domestic group as a terrorist organization. Some rights groups in Canada say listing the Proud Boys as a terrorist entity could broaden the definition of terrorism to the point of endangering protests and free speech rights. The Proud Boys was formed in 2016 by Gavin McInnes, a Canadian. Among its central tenets are belief in closed borders and the aim of reinstating a spirit of Western chauvinism. Susan Tehrani from New York for WION. World is One.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.